On Tuesday, 3/4 of Beijing's population lined up for COVID-19 tests. This comes as the Chinese authorities are trying to avert a Shanghai-like situation. The orders come days after dozens of infections were found in the capital. The plan essentially is to stamp out a nascent outbreak, thus managing to avert the crippling city-wide lockdown. China has a zero COVID policy. It has used lockdowns, mass testing and travel curbs to stamp out infections. Its biggest city, Shanghai, has been almost entirely locked down for weeks now. The mass testing order in Beijing has sparked concern. Residents think that the capital will be placed under similar curbs, so millions are already stocking up on food and essential supplies. Beijing recorded 33 fresh COVID-19 cases on the 25th of April. This is up from 19 the day before. No deaths have yet been reported in the capital. Meanwhile, schools, stores and offices remained open, but the iconic Lama Temple would be closed to tourists from Wednesday. Beijing's National Theatre will also be closed for the rest of the month. Officials have been urging residents to refrain from leaving the capital and avoid gatherings for the upcoming Labor Day holidays. The economic fallout from any lockdown in Beijing will be less severe than that on manufacturing powerhouse Shanghai, but a twin Beijing-Shanghai lockdown could be disastrous. It could reduce China's economic output by 1% in the second quarter. Concerns have already grown about how this could impact the global economy, especially the impact on the supply chains. And for more on these developments, with us on the broadcast is Einar Tangen, with us from Beijing. He is a senior fellow at the Taipei Institute. Thanks very much for being here with us. Let me begin by asking you about the situation on the ground. And is Beijing headed for a Shanghai-style lockdown? What is your assessment?
Beijing and Shanghai are two different cities, and they're taking different approaches. Shanghai decided to cut the city in half and try to handle it that way. What Beijing is doing is they're requiring everybody to have a COVID test, not one, but 3 over the next few days. So they're hoping to isolate wherever there is an outbreak, trace everybody that's involved, and then isolate them in their homes. They've put in tremendous amount of effort into logistics. They're making sure that there's plenty of food available. If you go to the stores, there are a lot of people there, but the shelves are not empty and there's no panic buying. In the end, the goal is to make sure that the transition, when they're ready from a pandemic to an endemic, that's the point where you start living with the situation. They want to have some things in place. One, they're very concerned about the mortality rate. They want to be that below 0.01%. They have already gotten one therapeutic drug that can treat people who have been affected by this, so that they have something to offer people in the hospitals other than just respirators and things like this. And finally, they want to make sure that there as many people as possible have that third vaccine. That seems to be very, very helpful. Right now, they're concentrating a lot on the elderly who've been very resistive, as they had in many countries, to getting the virus. From China's perspective, what they've been doing has been very good. They've been leading the world over 10.2% in the last 2 years in terms of growth. They still have a fairly ambitious target ahead of them. There have been headwinds, but it is Beijing and Shanghai are two different cities.
Right. Why has China's zero COVID policy gone so badly wrong, according to you?
Well, it hasn't gone wrong. If wrong is when you look at the results. If you see how many people who have died in China, it's about 4,600, and that's over the last 2.5 years. If you see the number of people who've been infected, actually the total number is less than other countries have had in one day. At the same time, as I pointed out to you, they have been growing at the fastest rate of any country in the world. So if that's failure, I think other countries wish they were failing so badly. I mean, there is this desire by many countries to see China fail, to say that, there was no possible way of handling the COVID-19. China just delayed the inevitable situation. But I think China is going to emerge from this with an intact record, the best one in the world. And this is going to give some people pause for thought as they consider what their governments did or did not do.
What would a strict lockdown in Beijing mean for the global economy? What is your view on the immediate implications?
Beijing is home to the greatest number of unicorns out there. So it's a tech heaven. I mean, it actually exceeds Shanghai. So there would be a lot of things that have to do in terms of these companies, but it's not as big a production hub as Shanghai. And then in terms of logistics, they have, if you start taking the whole Bohai area, things like this, I mean, if you take Tianjin and Beijing and the other towns around it, yes, they have a tremendous amount of trade. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of consumption. And it is causing some concern because with these headwinds, with these lockdowns, not only Shanghai, Shenzhen, many other places, Liaoning, they've been able to handle the COVID-19, but at a cost to the economy. However, economies run on confidence. As soon as China switches over from this pandemic to an endemic, you're going to, and if they're able to continue their success story, you're going to see a very, very confident Chinese population doing a little bit of revenge spending. So when that happens, you can expect a tidal wave of people, tourism, people going out, people buying things, traveling, doing more business. And as I said, it's about confidence, and China's going to come out of this, it looks, on a much more confident basis than many other people from other countries.
Thanks very much for joining us with those perspectives. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.